Hi, Tim here from Tennishead. We are trying out the new ASICS Court FF3 today. And our first tester is Michelle. She is a professional tennis player who's never worn ASICS before, is that right?
Yeah, only when I was very little, so
okay.
A long time.
So it's been a long time since she's worn ASICS, so we thought she'd be perfect to try out the new shoe, tell us what she thinks. So Michelle, can you just tell us a bit about your tennis? So how long have you been playing? Where do you play, what tour, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, sure. I started playing when I was 4 years old in the Netherlands. I played like nationally, just trying to grow into tennis, and then when I was around 11 years old I moved to England and I started competing nationally, and now I'm competing at a pro level, hopefully get a good ranking.
Excellent. Delighted to be joined by Chirag, who is a top player, and he is going to tell us what he thought about the shoes. First of all, Chirag, just tell us about your own tennis for a start. You know, what level do you play at, all that sort of stuff?
I was playing some futures last year, and then I had some time off due to some injuries. But I decided in 2023 to try and pick it back up again.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it right, those injuries? Well, tell us about them because they're relevant for this shoe review.
I felt that the injuries were to do with my shins, so I had shin splints, and I was wearing Nikes before that, and I felt just before I changed, someone advised me to actually change to ASICS, and I felt a difference where I just felt that the Nikes, the Vapors in particular, were quite flat, and then when I changed to these, you had a lot more give in them, and a lot more they were a lot more springy, especially straight from the start, and the cushioning in them, the biggest thing with the cushioning in them, lasted a bit longer, I felt. And that was one of the biggest differences, yeah.
So you were wearing Nike Vapor, now you're wearing an ASICS shoe. What shoe do you wear?
I wear the Solution Speeds at the moment, and yeah, I mean, I find that when you put them on, they don't feel really stiff. Like when you try new shoes, you're trying to break them in for a while, but with these, they actually feel like they're quite malleable straight from the get-go as well.
And you put orthotics into your ASICS shoes, do you?
Yeah.
And is that because of your shin injuries?
Yeah, that's because of the shins. I got them about a year ago, and I felt that they just raised the arch just a tiny bit to try and take some pressure off the shins, yeah.
But I think what's important about ASICS is every ASICS shoe has this removable insole. So if you are needing orthotics, then it's very easy to just take the insoles in and out. And in fact, Chirag has got his orthotics in these.
Yeah.
For shoes, what shoe do you normally wear when you're playing tournaments?
I normally wear the Nike Vapors,
okay.
And they've always been nice and comfy, so I've never had an issue with them.
Yeah. So when you first took the shoe out the box, firstly, what was your thought on the look and the colours and the design?
I really liked it, actually. I love white shoes. I always try to go for white trainers. But when there's a little bit of colour, it adds a nice little pop, and the purple is really nice, so I thought they were really pretty.
Good. You hadn't seen these before because we just gave them to you new today. And what's your initial feedback on the style?
The styling I like quite a lot. I like how, the other ASICS that I've worn, the tongue is kind of I don't know how to say, separate, if that makes sense, whereas this is all kind of connected inwards, and it kind of cushions the foot quite a bit, especially at the top. Yeah. And
then you tried them on. So the Court FF has an inbuilt sock into the shoe. So they do, often people find that they're quite snug when you first put them on. How did you find it when you first put these shoes on?
Yeah, I felt the same. When I was putting it on, it was quite tight putting it on, but when your foot is inside, it kind of felt like a cushion instead of just being very firm. So I thought immediately very comfortable, fit it around my foot perfectly.
And so then when you first put these on, you've never worn Court FFs before, you've never put a pair on your feet. So what was your initial feedback? Because obviously the big difference with Court FFs is the inbuilt sock, which you just mentioned there.
Yeah.
What did you feel when you first put these on?
So first, as I've said, comfort-wise, it was significantly better than the majority of the other shoes I've worn. And just in general, it's one of those shoes where you put it on and you feel like you've worn them for a few weeks already, because they're just a lot more comfortable, they're a lot more malleable. And I feel like the cushioning in these is just a tiny bit more, which suits me quite a bit with all the foot and the injury problems I've had.
And then in terms of sizing, so you told us you're normally a UK 7, these are a UK 7. How did it feel? Do you think this is exactly a UK 7 for you, or do you feel it's a bit smaller or bigger than you're used to?
I think it was exactly a UK 7, for me personally, yeah.
Okay, fine. So these are slightly heavier than the Solution Speed.
Yeah.
But you noticed that, but did that have an impact on your game?
I don't think it had an impact. I definitely noticed it. I don't think it had like an impact. It's something that you can get used to after wearing them for a bit. But in general, no, I don't think it had like a proper impact now.
And then in terms of sort of the weight of the shoe, does it feel lighter than you're used to, heavier?
It feels a little bit heavier than my usual shoe, but I personally don't mind it, but yeah.
Okay. So then you had a little warm-up in the shoe. So what was your sort of first impression? You put the shoe on your foot, you started moving around the court, not playing tennis, just moving around. What was your first impression of the shoe?
I feel like when you always try out new shoes, they're going to be a little bit uncomfortable. So it's just your foot is like adjusting to the shoe. But this one picked up like after 5 minutes of just moving around, I thought my foot was like, I'm not uncomfortable, already fitted. So yeah, it felt pretty good from the get-go.
You've talked about the stability of them and the comfort. Was that still there when you were doing the dynamic movements, you were moving side to side? Did you still feel that extra stability and comfort?
Yeah, more tiny bit more so than the solution speeds. Just tiny bit more so. But yeah, I definitely felt that it was more stable, especially when you're pushing back off to recover back to the middle. That's when I felt it the most.
Then you started hitting balls. You started hitting ground strokes. In terms of your movement side to side, what was your feedback on the shoe for that?
I actually really liked it because it kept my foot in place. Sometimes with my shoes, like I always try to tighten them extra firm so that my foot doesn't move around because I have quite weak ankles, but this one felt very supported when I was moving side to side and changing direction.
Okay, so that support, what would you say, was it around the front of the foot, the ankle, all across?
For me it was more in the ankle, like the ankle feels very supported. I don't know if that's because of the built-in sock, but yeah, in the ankle mostly.
And then when you were trying to do those sort of more dynamic movements, so you've gone out wide and you were trying to push back or maybe go backwards and forwards, how was the sort of flexibility of the shoe when you're changing direction, that sort of thing?
It was really good. Like I said, it felt very supported. Like my ankle was not moving, my foot wasn't moving around a lot. So I really felt comfortable like running in it side to side and changing it.
So the one thing is with these Court FF3s is that they have a 3-piece sole. So the sole is actually split into 3, which is unlike any other tennis shoe out there and unlike any other ASICS shoe. The reason for this is to allow the foot still to stick to the court no matter what type of movement you're making. Did you feel any difference with your connection with the foot and the court?
I felt that it was easier to stay on my toes. One of the reasons why I had shin splints, I was told, is because the arch in my foot is kind of a bit fallen, so my foot's a bit flatter. So in these shoes in particular, it's kind of easier to stay on your toes, whereas other ones it can, I can kind of feel it. Whereas this one, in particular, I noticed that recovering back, it's easier to stay like on your toes, which is obviously very important. This
Court FF3 is split into 3 different sections. So the idea for that is that it helps you in different types of movement, so that the shoe can actually twist when it needs to, or you've got the stability when you need to, and which is something that Djokovic worked very closely on these shoes. So he tried out 9 different prototypes and they came to the conclusion that this was right for him. With your foot, when your foot's planted on the floor, what sort of feeling did you get? Is it different to how you felt before? I mean, do you notice the fact that maybe it's got more flexibility in the sole?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Nike shoes are quite flat, so I'm quite used to like not a lot of support around that. So this felt really nice. I keep saying it, but I felt very supported, and I don't know if that's because of these or, like I said, the inbuilt sock. So I just think it comes together really well.
Yeah. You probably realise that Djokovic is heavily involved with the design of these.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel about wearing a shoe that literally he wears exactly this shoe? Okay.
Yeah.
There's no changes to it by ASICS. It's literally off the shelf onto his foot. How does that make you feel when you're wearing them?
Well, it gives you a feel of obviously Novak knows what he's talking about, so it gives you a feel that you're going to have a similar type, a lot of stability in the shoe, and you can trust it. That's the main thing. Definitely, if you're a player that slides, like obviously Novak is, I do that a little bit. I mean, you feel like the shoe's a lot more stable and it'll take it. You won't, kind of turn an ankle or anything like that.
As a pro, people probably don't realise, but do you buy your own shoes and clothing?
Yeah, I do. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sponsored at the moment.
At the moment?
Yeah, hopefully.
So you're price sensitive.
Yeah.
What do you think? These are £185 UK. In terms of price, do you think that's a fair price for this shoe?
I don't think so personally. I always try to keep it in budget just because tennis shoes, you go through them so quickly. I always try to range between £90, £70, whatever is cheapest at the moment. Because like I said, like some people go through tennis shoes like within 3 weeks. I don't know how long these last, but yeah, for me that's quite pricey.
Yeah, fine, fair comment. Obviously you're talking as if you're a pro, so you're going through shoes every 3 or 4 weeks. If you're an amateur player like me, not very good, and you change your shoes every 6 months to a year, then would that make you feel differently about the price of these?
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely be getting these because I feel like they would last you a long time and they give you that support. So if I if I didn't play at a pro level, and even at a pro level, I would really recommend these. Like I would buy these again. It depends how long they would last me, but I think from what I can see, they're really good. So I would definitely recommend them.
These are the premium ASICS shoe. They're the most expensive in their range. A lot of people don't realise, but you know, pros like Chirag, you'll be buying your own shoes, won't you?
Yeah.
Does if I said these are £180, but you love them, do you still think as a pro, would you still consider buying them?
Yes, yeah, I mean I definitely think it's worth it. I mean at the end of the day you're trying to get the best performers on the court, so yeah, 100%.
Now most of the people watching this are not going to be your level of play, they're going to be club players, so they maybe wear out their shoes every 6 months or so. So do you think that makes it even more of a reason to spend more because you're going to be wearing them for longer?
Yeah, I definitely think as well as these would last a bit longer than other shoes, particularly for if you're playing club player, if you're playing county level, pros, whichever. I think that it would last a bit longer. So yeah, I mean I would recommend them for players who are playing full-time professionally or at club level as well.
ASICS tennis shoes include something called flight foam, which is a type of foam that's in the sole to make them really cushioned. How did you feel in terms of bounce and cushioning for these shoes?
Really good. Like when I was running for the shots, it felt very lightweight. Like I didn't feel like my foot was getting a lot of impact. So it was really nice getting that support again. And it felt really like gentle on my feet, which is always a really positive thing to have in a shoe.
So we were talking off camera, you saying that actually you really like these and having not worn them before. Do you think you might wear these for young tournaments?
Yeah, 100%. I'm really excited that I get to keep these and play with them.
All right, we've got a convert.
Yeah, 100%.